2 days later, humanity's dawn lifted off from the Gobi Desert for the first time in 12,000 years. Sand cascaded from its hull as ancient engines roared to life. People for hundreds of kilometers around felt the ground shake. Satellites captured the moment as the massive vessel rose slowly into the sky, accelerating as it climbed. Inside, Tae-hyun gripped the command chair as gravity fluctuated. Ji-woo monitored systems from a nearby console. Haijin sat at the navigation station, her fingers dancing across holographic controls, and in a separate section of the bridge, Vexithar and 3 Krell crew members worked at stations designed for human hands, adapting as best they could. Orbit achieved, the hologram announced, all systems functioning within acceptable parameters. Tae-hyun looked at the view screen showing Earth below. The blue and white sphere looked so fragile from up here, so small, yet it held billions of lives depending on him to succeed. Set course for the first refuge world, he commanded. Maximum speed. The ship lurched and stars stretched into lines as they jumped to faster-than-light travel. Earth vanished behind them. The next months were difficult. The ship required constant repairs. Systems failed regularly, forcing Ji-woo to improvise solutions with materials they didn't have. Food supplies ran low and they had to stop at uninhabited worlds to hunt and gather. The Krell crew members had different dietary needs requiring careful rationing. But slowly, the human and Krell crew members learned to work together. Vexthar taught Tae-hyun about Krell culture and history. Tae-hyun shared human stories and music with the Krell. They found common ground in unexpected places. Both species valued family, both feared death, both created art to express what words could not. They visited 7 worlds. All were dead. Ancient ruins showed where human colonies had once thrived. But time, war, or disease had taken them. Bones and ashes were all that remained. On the 8th world, they found survivors. The planet was called Haven by its inhabitants. When humanity's dawn entered orbit, they were greeted by defensive satellites that were ancient but still functional. A voice came over the communication system speaking a dialect of Korean so old that Tae-hyun needed the hologram to translate. Unknown vessel, identify yourself. We will fire if you approach further. We are humans from Earth, Tae-hyun said carefully. We come in peace. We seek our lost brothers and sisters. There was a long silence. Then Earth? That is a name from the oldest stories, the world our ancestors fled from. Why would Earth send a ship now? Because the Krell have found us, Tae-hyun explained. They're coming to finish the genocide. We need allies. We need proof that humanity can live in peace with others. The Krell, the voice spat. We remember them. We fled here to escape their persecution, and you brought them to our doorstep? I brought allies, Tae-hyun corrected. Krell who experienced the resonance protocol, who understand that the war was wrong on both sides, who want to build peace instead of continuing old hatred. Another long pause. We will send a delegation to your ship. If they do not return safely, we will destroy you. The delegation consisted of 5 people led by a woman named Bo-Ra. She looked completely human, but her eyes had adapted to Haven's dimmer sun, the pupils larger than Earth humans. She and her people had clearly been isolated for millennia, developing their own culture, their own way of life. They were deeply suspicious of the Krell crew members. Bo-Ra especially recoiled when she saw Vexithar. We fled to escape your kind, she told him coldly. My ancestors died by the thousands because of Krell weapons. Why should I help Earth when it harbors our ancient enemies? Because we are not our ancestors, Vexthar replied. I have touched human minds through the resonance protocol. I have felt your pain as if it were my own. I do not wish to repeat the mistakes of my people. Words are easy. Actions matter. Then let me prove it, Vexthar said. The Krell fleet will arrive at Earth in 3 months. They will not hesitate to exterminate everyone on the planet. But if we stand together, humans from Earth, humans from Haven, and Krell who reject genocide, we might convince the fleet to stop. We might end this cycle of violence. Bo-Ra studied him for a long moment. Then she looked at Tae-hyun. You trust this Krell? With my life, Tae-hyun said. He saved us multiple times during our journey. And you believe humans and Krell can truly coexist? I've seen it happen on this ship every day for months. It's not easy, but it's possible. Bo-Ra consulted with her delegation in their ancient dialect. Finally, she nodded. Haven will send ships to Earth. Not many. We have only 12 vessels capable of interstellar travel. But we will come. For our forgotten brothers and sisters on the ancestral world. Over the next 2 months, they found 4 more surviving colonies. Each was different. Some had mixed with alien species. Others had remained purely human. All were initially suspicious. But Taehyun's story, combined with the presence of Krell allies, convinced them. Slowly, a fleet assembled. Humanity's dawn led 17 ships back toward Earth. It wasn't an army. Against the thousands of vessels in the Krell military fleet, they would be overwhelmed in minutes. But it was proof that humans could survive, could adapt, could learn to live alongside former enemies. They arrived at Earth with 1 week to spare. The planet was transformed. After experiencing the Resonance Protocol, humanity had unified in a way never seen before. National borders still existed, but they mattered less. People who had felt alien thoughts in their minds were less quick to hate what was different. Defensive platforms ringed the planet, built with technology extracted from humanity's Dawn's database. They wouldn't be enough to stop the Krell fleet, but they would make invasion costly. Taehyun addressed Earth from the ship, his message broadcast globally. "We found them," he said. "Humans who fled 12,000 years ago. Humans who survived. Humans who built new lives on distant worlds. They've come home to stand with us. Not to wage war, but to show the Krell that we are more than our ancestors' mistakes. We are survivors. We are builders. We are capable of change." The response was overwhelming. Cities celebrated. People wept. For the first time in months, hope replaced fear. Then the Krell fleet arrived. Thousands of ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They formed perfect geometric patterns, weapons hot, shields active. A message came from the fleet commander, demanding immediate surrender. Taehyun prepared to respond when Vexthar stepped forward. "Let me speak to them. One Krell to another. Let me show them what I've learned." Taehyun nodded. Vexthar opened a channel to the fleet. He spoke in the Krell language, and the hologram translated. "I am Commander Vexthar. I have lived among humans for months. I have touched their minds through the Resonance Protocol. I have seen their capacity for growth, for change, for peace. We were wrong to declare genocide. We were wrong to believe a species could not evolve beyond aggression. I ask you to reconsider, to give humanity a chance to prove they are more than what our propaganda claimed." The response was immediate and brutal. "You are a traitor. You will be executed along with the humans you defend." But then other voices joined the channel. Krell from across the fleet who had friends among the humans who'd experienced the Resonance Protocol. Scientists who questioned whether genocide was ever justified. Young soldiers who didn't want to fight a war started by their ancestors. The fleet fractured. Some ships maintained their aggressive posture. Others powered down weapons. Still others transmitted requests to be allowed to enter orbit and meet humans face to face. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But it was a beginning. Taehyun stood on the bridge of humanity's dawn, Jiwoo beside him, Vexithar and Hyojin nearby. Below, Earth turned slowly, beautiful and fragile. Around them, ships from a dozen human colonies kept watch. In orbit, Krell vessels debated their future. "We did it," Jiwoo said quietly. "We actually did it. We started it," Taehyun corrected. "The hard part comes now. Building actual peace. Learning to trust. Creating something new from the ruins of the old war. Will it work?" Heejin asked. Taehyun thought of Dongmin's last words. "The ship responds to your voice because you're human. Because of what humans are, survivors who adapt." "Yes," he said. "It will work. Because we're human. And humans never give up." The view screen showed Earth rising over the horizon, sunlight catching its oceans and continents. 12,000 years ago, refugees had fled to that world in desperation. Now their descendants were reclaiming humanity's place among the stars, not through conquest, not through fear, but through the one thing that had always made humanity special, the stubborn refusal to accept that anything was impossible. The ship hummed beneath Taehyun's feet, no longer responding just to his voice but to his purpose, to carry humanity forward, to build bridges instead of walls, to prove that even ancient enemies could become allies, to show the galaxy what humans really were when they were at their best. The journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. Taehyun was no longer in the ship. He was everywhere and nowhere. He was himself and 1,000 other people simultaneously. The sensation was overwhelming, impossible to describe in words that made sense. He felt Jiwoo's grief over Dongmin's death as if it were his own. He experienced the fear of a farmer in rural China watching the Krell message on his old television. He lived through the panic of a mother in New York, clutching her children as sirens wailed. He was all of them, and they were all him. But it wasn't just humans he connected with. Suddenly he was aboard the Krell scout ship. He was Commander Vexthar, and the memories flooded through him like a dam breaking. He remembered, no, Vexthar remembered, a beautiful world of crystal spires and singing stones, a world where the Krell had lived peacefully for 10,000 years before humans arrived. The memory shifted. Human ships appeared in orbit, not asking, just taking. They landed. They built colonies. They started mining operations that disrupted the planet's magnetic field. When the Krell protested, human soldiers killed the protesters. When the Krell government demanded they leave, humanity sent warships. Tae-hyun felt Vexthar's rage, his helplessness, his determination that this would never happen again to any species. But then the connection deepened, and Vexthar was feeling what Tae-hyun felt. The commander experienced human memories now, a child on Earth looking up at stars and dreaming of touching them, scientists working for decades to unlock the secrets of the universe, artists creating beauty from nothing, parents sacrificing everything for their children's future. Vexthar felt the desperate hope that drove early human explorers into space. The loneliness of being alone in the universe. The joy of finding that life existed beyond Earth. And yes, the mistakes, the arrogance, the violence, but also the remorse, the learning, the trying to be better. For 180 seconds, humanity and the Krell were one consciousness. They experienced each other's worst moments and best moments. They felt each other's pain and joy. They understood, truly understood what it meant to be the other. Then the connection broke. Tae-hyun gasped, back in his own body, his own mind. He was kneeling on the floor of the ship, tears streaming down his face. Jiwoo was beside him, also crying, also changed by what they'd experienced. Around the world, billions of humans slowly returned to themselves, carrying memories that weren't their own but felt as real as any childhood recollection. And aboard the scout ship, Commander Vexthar stared at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. His crew was similarly affected, some weeping, others sitting in stunned silence. They had touched human minds and found them not so different from their own. The hologram appeared, flickering weakly. Protocol complete. Power at critical levels. Unable to maintain shields or weapon systems. Did it work? Tae-hyun asked, his voice hoarse. Before the hologram could answer, a communication request came through. It was from the Krell ship. Tae-hyun accepted it with a voice command. Vexthar's face appeared on the screen. The alien commander looked exhausted, his eyes haunted. I felt it, he said simply. I felt what you feel. Your hope, your fear, your love for your people. And I felt yours, Tae-hyun replied. I understand why you hate us. I understand what we did to your world. Not you, Vexthar said. Your ancestors. There is a difference. He paused, seeming to struggle with something. I cannot fire on Earth, my crew cannot either. We have touched your minds. We have seen your children. We have felt your dreams. How can we destroy what we now understand? So it's over? Jiwoo asked hopefully. No, Vexthar said heavily. My ship was only a scout. A Krell military fleet is coming. They will arrive in your system within months. They did not experience the resonance protocol. They do not understand humans as I now do. When they arrive, they will finish the genocide they started 12,000 years ago. The hope that had begun to bloom in Tae-hyun's chest withered. Can you stop them? I am one commander with one ship. The fleet contains thousands of vessels, tens of millions of soldiers. They will see me as a traitor for not completing my mission. They will destroy my ship along with your planet. Vexthar leaned closer to the screen. But there might be a way. Before the resonance protocol was banned, ancient humans established colonies across the galaxy. Refuge worlds where they tried to live peacefully with other species. Some of those colonies might still exist, hidden, waiting. How does that help us? Tae-hyun asked. If we could find them and bring them back to Earth, humanity would not stand alone. You would have allies, proof that humans can coexist peacefully with other species. The Krell fleet might hesitate to attack if it meant war with multiple civilizations. That's a big might, Jiwoo said. It is all we have, Vexthar replied. I have access to old star charts from the war. They show possible locations of human refuge worlds, but searching would take time. Time we do not have, Taehyun thought quickly. How long until the fleet arrives? 8 of your months. Perhaps 9 if they encounter stellar obstacles. And how long to search for these refuge worlds? Unknown. They could be dead. They could be thriving. They could have forgotten they were ever human. But searching is better than waiting here to die. Taehyun looked at Jiwoo. She nodded slowly, understanding what he was thinking. He looked at the medical bay where Dongmin's body lay, a reminder of the cost of their discovery. He thought of the billions of people on Earth who now carried Krell memories in their minds, who would never look at the stars the same way again. I'll go, he said. Take humanity's dawn and search for the lost colonies. Bring them back before the fleet arrives. The ship is barely functional, the hologram protested. Life support is unstable. Weapons are offline. Navigation systems are operating at minimal capacity. Then we'll fix them along the way, Taehyun said. We don't have a choice. I will come with you, Vexthar said. My crew and I. We cannot return to the Krell Dominion now. We would be executed as traitors. But we can help you navigate Krell space. We can teach you how to avoid their patrols. Why would you do that? Jiwoo asked suspiciously. Because I touched your minds, Vexthar said simply. I understand now that the war was wrong. Both sides made terrible mistakes. Both sides lost everything. I do not wish to repeat history. I wish to change it. A new voice spoke up. I want to come too, they turned. Heejin stood at the corridor entrance, escorted by a holographic barrier. The mercenaries had apparently abandoned her when the resonance protocol activated. You betrayed us, Taehyun said coldly. I did. I won't make excuses. But I felt the connection too. I experienced what you experienced. I saw the truth about human history, about the Krell, about everything. She stepped forward. I'm a good pilot. I'm good with technology. Let me help make this right. Let me do something meaningful instead of just recording other people's achievements. Taehyun wanted to refuse, wanted to tell her to leave and never come back. But he had felt her mind during the resonance protocol, had felt her genuine remorse, her desire to be better than she had been. Fine, he said, but you're on probation. One mistake and you're out. Heejin nodded gratefully. The hologram projected a star map showing dozens of potential refuge worlds. I have identified 37 possible locations based on old records. Some are more likely than others. Then we start with the most likely and work our way down, Taehyun said. How soon can we launch? The ship needs 3 days minimum for repairs sufficient to attempt spaceflight. You have 2 days, Taehyun said. Get to work. Outside the ship, the world was changing. Governments were struggling to respond to what had happened. People were processing alien memories, trying to understand what it meant to have experienced life as another species. Some were traumatized. Others were enlightened. All were forever changed. But Taehyun didn't have time to worry about Earth's adjustment. He had a mission now. Find the lost colonies. Bring them home. Save humanity from extinction again. The ship hummed with increasing energy as systems came online one by one. Lights flickered in corridors that had been dark for millennia. Screens displayed information in a dozen languages. The hologram grew brighter, more solid, as if drawing strength from the awakening vessel. Taehyun spent hours learning the ship's interface while Jiwoo explored the database and Dongmin rested in the medical bay. The ship's healing systems were working on his injuries, though slowly. They needed more power, and power was in short supply with so many systems still offline. I found something, Jiwoo called out. She was standing at a terminal, her face illuminated by scrolling text, something the hologram didn't tell us about. Taehyun joined her. What is it? Records from the war. Detailed battle reports. Casualty figures. She paused, her finger hovering over a particular entry. Taehyun, humanity didn't just defend themselves. They attacked first in many cases. They destroyed entire planets. Billions of alien lives lost because human commanders decided those worlds were strategically valuable. That can't be right, Taehyun said, but his voice lacked conviction. Jiwoo pulled up images. Worlds reduced to ash, cities melting under human weapons, refugee ships destroyed because they might carry military intelligence. The evidence was overwhelming and horrifying. The Krell didn't start the war because they were evil, Jiwoo said quietly. They started it because they were terrified. Humanity was spreading like a plague, taking whatever they wanted, destroying anyone who resisted. The Krell response was brutal, yes, but it was also defensive. The hologram appeared beside them. Your history is incomplete, it said. Then complete it, Taehyun demanded. Tell us the truth. All of it. Humanity was aggressive, the hologram admitted. They expanded rapidly, settled worlds without asking permission from nearby species, exploited resources without regard for consequences. Many human commanders committed atrocities, but many also tried to build peace. The situation was complicated. Complicated, Jiwoo repeated bitterly. That's one word for genocide. Before the conversation could continue, alarms blared throughout the ship. The hologram's form flickered urgently. They're here. The Krell have arrived. External screens showed Earth's orbit. A ship hung there, dark and angular, bristling with weapons. It was smaller than humanity's Dawn, but clearly more advanced. Its hull shimmered with energy shields. Weapon ports glowed with barely contained power. That's a Krell scout ship, the hologram explained, heavily armed for its size. It's scanning the planet. As they watched, every screen on Earth, television, computer, phone went dark. Then a single image appeared. A Krell commander, his features alien but his eyes disturbingly intelligent. He spoke in a language that shouldn't exist, but the hologram translated instantly. People of Earth. I am Commander Vexthar of the Krell Dominion. We have detected the activation of an ancient human war vessel on your planet. 12,000 years ago, we destroyed human civilization because it threatened all life in the galaxy. We allowed Earth to survive because we believed humanity here was too primitive to be dangerous. We were wrong. The image zoomed out, showing the scout ship's weapons charging. You have one rotation of your planet to surrender the vessel and all those inside it. If you refuse, we will begin orbital bombardment of your largest cities. One city every hour until you comply. We do not wish to harm you, but we will not allow humanity to threaten the galaxy again. The screens went black, then returned to normal programming. But the damage was done. Within minutes, global panic erupted. News channels exploded with speculation. Governments scrambled to respond. Religious leaders debated whether this was the end times. Scientists argued about whether the Krell message was even real. Inside the ship, Taehyun felt the weight of billions of lives pressing down on him. This is my fault. I activated the ship. No, Jiwoo said firmly. You discovered the truth. That's different, is it? People are going to die because of what I did. Dongmin emerged from the medical bay, moving stiffly but upright. What did I miss? They explained quickly. Dongmin listened carefully, then sat down heavily. So we have 24 hours before they start killing people. Less now, the hologram corrected. 19 hours. What can we do? Taehyun asked. Can this ship fight them? Unknown. The scout ship has 12,000 years of technological advancement. Humanity's Dawn is larger and was built for war, but systems are still offline. In a direct battle, probability of success is low. How low? 33%. And even if we win, the battle would likely cause catastrophic damage to your planet. Collateral casualties could number in the millions. Taehyun felt sick. Every choice led to death. Surrender meant execution for him and his team, but might save Earth. Fight meant possibly saving humanity's dignity, but risking everyone on the planet. Do nothing and watch cities burn one by one. There has to be another way, Jiwoo said. There might be, Dongmin said slowly. He was looking at one of the data screens. I've been studying the ship's systems while the medical bay worked on me. There's something called the Resonance Protocol. Explain, Taehyun said. It's listed as a weapon, but the description is strange. It doesn't destroy matter. It connects consciousness. Ancient humans used it to link minds across vast distances. They could share memories, emotions, experiences. Supposedly, it made war almost impossible between linked species because they understood each other too well. Almost impossible? Jiwoo asked. Well, humans still fought wars, so clearly it wasn't perfect. The hologram's form flickered with what might have been agitation. The resonance protocol is extremely dangerous. It was banned in the final years of the war. Linking incompatible species can cause permanent psychological damage, madness, death. But it could work? Taehyun asked, theoretically. If both species survive the connection, they would understand each other perfectly. No more lies, no more propaganda, just raw truth. Taehyun looked at his team. Jiwoo was nodding slowly. Dongmin looked thoughtful. Outside the ship, They could hear more military vehicles arriving. Governments were massing forces, though against what they couldn't seem to decide. The Krell ship hung in orbit like a sword waiting to fall. "What if we connected everyone?" Taehyun said. "Not just the Krell ship, but Earth too. Let humans and Krell experience each other's memories, their fears, their hopes. Make them see each other as people instead of threats." "That scale has never been attempted," the hologram warned. "You would be linking billions of consciousnesses simultaneously. The psychic strain could destroy minds across both species. You could be responsible for the greatest mass casualty event in history." "Or the greatest peace," Jiwoo countered. Dongmin coughed, and blood flecked his lips. The medical systems weren't working fast enough. His injuries were worse than they'd thought. "I'm not going to make it," he said calmly. "We all know that. The medical bay needs more power than the ship can provide right now. So let me say this while I can. Do it, Taehyun. Use the protocol." "You could die," Taehyun said. "I'm already dying. At least this way it might mean something. My last thought being part of something that saves everyone. That's a good death." "Don't talk like that," Jiwoo said, but her voice broke. Dongmin smiled. "The ship responds to Taehyun's voice because he's human. Not because of some special DNA. Because of what humans are. Survivors who adapt and try new things even when they're terrified. Use that, make something new. Make something better than what came before." He closed his eyes and didn't open them again. The medical bay's alarm sang a quiet dirge. Jiwoo wept. Taehyun stood frozen, rage and grief warring inside him. Another death caused by his discovery. Another life lost because he'd read symbols on an ancient hull. "I'm doing it," he said finally. "Activate the resonance protocol. Full power. Everyone on Earth, everyone on that Krell ship. Link us all." "This will drain the ship completely," the hologram warned. "If it fails, we won't have power for shields, weapons, or life support. We'll be defenseless." "I don't care." "Do it," Command confirmed. "Initiating resonance protocol in 30 seconds. Outside, sirens wailed. Inside, the ship's hum rose to a scream. Energy crackled across every surface. Screens showed the Krell ship, its weapons fully charged now, targeting Earth's largest cities. 20 seconds. Jiwoo took Taehyun's hand. "Whatever happens, we tried." 10 seconds. The ship glowed like a second sun. Resonance protocol activated. The world went white. The hologram guided them inside the ship. The opening was just large enough for one person at a time, and Taehyun went first. He climbed down a ladder that appeared to be carved from the same seamless metal as the hull. The others followed, with Hyejin bringing up the rear, her camera now firmly back in her hands. Inside, the ship was vast. Corridors stretched in multiple directions, their walls giving off a soft blue light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The air was cool and dry, smelling faintly of ozone. Their footsteps echoed despite the metal floor, creating strange harmonics that made Jiwoo shiver. "This way," the hologram said. It had gained a voice now, mechanical but somehow warm. It floated ahead of them, leading them deeper into the ship. They walked for what felt like hours but was probably only 15 minutes. Finally, they reached a large circular room. In the center stood a pedestal with a glowing screen. Around the walls, more screens displayed scrolling information in languages Taehyun couldn't read. "This is the command center," the hologram explained. "From here, the captain controlled all ship functions." "You keep calling me a descendant," Taehyun said. "Explain that." The hologram flickered, and suddenly the air was filled with images. Stars, planets, ships by the thousands, cities of glass and metal spreading across entire continents. Humans, clearly humans, walking among structures that defied physics. 12,000 years ago, humanity was not confined to Earth, the hologram said. They spread across 17 galaxies, thousands of worlds, millions of ships. Earth was one colony among many, barely remembered, considered too primitive to bother with. "That's impossible," Dongmin said. "We would have found evidence. Ruins, artifacts, something." "You did," the hologram replied. "You simply didn't recognize them. Many structures your archaeologists attribute to ancient civilizations were built with technology we provided. The precision of certain pyramids, the astronomical knowledge of supposedly primitive peoples, seeds we planted before we left." Jiwoo was staring at the images with wide eyes. What happened? If humanity was so advanced, why did they disappear? The hologram's voice took on a somber tone. "War. The Krell Dominion, a coalition of alien species, determined that humanity's expansion was too aggressive, too dangerous. They feared human ambition and ingenuity, so they declared war, intending to eliminate humanity entirely. Genocide, Taehyun whispered. Yes. World after world burned. Billions died. The human empire collapsed in less than a century. Those who survived fled in whatever ships they could find. This vessel, Humanity's Dawn, was an Ark ship. It carried 10,000 refugees along with genetic samples, knowledge databases, and technology to rebuild civilization. But it crashed, Jiwoo said. Engine failure during atmospheric entry. Most passengers survived the crash itself. They had two choices: remain with the ship and slowly die as life support failed, or venture into the world outside and try to survive. They chose to live. The images changed, showing humans emerging from the ship into a harsh desert landscape. They looked scared but determined. Some carried children, others carried bundles of supplies. They became the ancestors of various human populations around Earth, the hologram continued. They carried genetic markers, specific sequences in their DNA that would allow their descendants to reactivate the ship if it were ever discovered. Park Seung-ho, the captain, encoded the most important protocols to respond only to his genetic line. You are his descendant, therefore you command. Taehyun felt sick. The weight of this knowledge was crushing. Why didn't they tell anyone? Why not pass down the truth? They tried. Stories became legends. Legends became myths. Myths became forgotten. After several generations, no one believed anymore. The ship was buried by sand. The past was lost. Heejin had been quiet, but now she spoke up. This discovery will change everything. When the world learns about this, governments will fight over it. Corporations will kill for it. We need to document everything carefully and make sure it goes to the right people. Something in her tone made Taehyun look at her closely. There was an edge there he hadn't noticed before. How did you hear about our expedition? He asked suddenly. I never actually saw your credentials. You just showed up one day with a camera. Heejin's smile didn't reach her eyes. Does it matter now? We found something incredible. That's what counts. It matters to me, Taehyun said. Before Heejin could respond, the hologram spoke urgently. Warning. Multiple vehicles approaching. Distance 15 kilometers. Armed personnel detected. What? Dongmin rushed to one of the screens. It showed a satellite view of the desert. Dozens of trucks and helicopters were converging on their location from multiple directions. How did they know we're here? Taehyun turned to Heejin. What did you do? She backed toward the corridor, her hand moving to her pocket. I'm sorry. I really am. But my employers need this technology. They're willing to pay more than you can imagine. Your employers? Jiwoo's voice rose. You've been spying on us? Documenting, Heejin corrected. Every discovery, every conversation. I've been streaming it all to them. They're very interested in a ship that only responds to one man's voice. She pulled out a small device. They're willing to pay you, Taehyun, a lot. Just give them access to the weapon systems. No, Taehyun said flatly. Heejin's expression hardened. I was hoping you'd be reasonable. She pressed a button on the device. Within seconds, armed men in tactical gear came pouring down the corridor. They surrounded Taehyun and his team, weapons raised. Nobody move, one of them commanded. He looked at Heejin. Which one is he? That one, Heejin pointed at Taehyun. He's the only one who can activate the systems. The man grabbed Taehyun roughly. You're going to do exactly what we say. Activate the weapons. Show us how to use them. And if I refuse? The man pointed his gun at Dongmin. Then your friend dies. Then the girl, then you. We'll find another descendant eventually. Your family is large enough, Taehyun's mind raced. He looked at the hologram still floating nearby. Could it help? Did it have defensive capabilities? As if reading his thoughts, the hologram spoke. Captain's authority recognized. Defensive protocols available. Recommend immediate activation. Do it, Taehyun said quickly. The armed men didn't even have time to react. The floor beneath them lit up with the same geometric patterns that had appeared on the hull. Energy barriers sprang into existence, separating Taehyun, Jiwoo, and Dongmin from their attackers. The armed men fired their weapons, but the bullets stopped in midair, frozen against the barriers. Defensive shields active, the hologram announced. This section is now secure. The armed men tried to break through the barriers but failed. After several minutes, they retreated back down the corridor, dragging Hyejin with them despite her protests. "We need to leave," Jiwoo said. "If they couldn't get in here, they'll try something else. Explosives maybe, or calling in more forces." "She's right," Dongmin agreed. He was pale and shaking. "We're trapped in here." "Not trapped," the hologram corrected. "Protected. However, I detect another problem. A signal has been transmitted into space, high-powered, encrypted using frequencies from the old war. Someone on your planet has Krell technology." "What does that mean?" Taehyun asked, though he feared he already knew. "It means the Krell know the ship has been activated. They will send forces to investigate, and when they arrive, they will finish what they started 12,000 years ago. They will destroy humanity completely." Outside, more vehicles arrived. The sound of helicopters filled the air. Voices shouted commands. Taehyun could hear drilling equipment starting up. They were going to try to force their way in. He looked at his team. Jiwoo was frightened but standing firm. Dongmin was clutching his side. He must have been hit during the confrontation, though he hadn't said anything. The hologram floated patiently, waiting for orders. "How long until the ship is fully operational?" Taehyun asked. "At current repair rates, 72 hours for basic systems. Full restoration would take 3 weeks. And the Krell? Unknown. Could be days, could be weeks, but they are coming." Taehyun made his decision. "Then we fight. Not just these mercenaries outside, but the Krell too. We wake up humanity's past. All of it." "Confirmed," the hologram said. "Initiating full system restoration. Welcome home, Captain." The desert wind howled across the empty landscape, carrying sand that stung like tiny needles. Taehyun pulled his scarf tighter around his face and checked the screen on his equipment one more time. The readings made no sense. According to the ground-penetrating radar, something massive was buried beneath the sand. Something that should not exist. "Are you seeing this?" Jiwoo shouted over the wind. She was his graduate assistant, a young woman who had joined his expedition 3 months ago. Her eyes were wide as she stared at her own equipment screen. "I see it," Taehyun replied, "but I don't believe it." Dongmin trudged over to them, his equipment bag bouncing against his hip. He was the team's technical specialist, good with machines and always calm under pressure. "What did you find?" "Something big," Taehyun said. "Really big. At least 200 meters long, buried 50 meters down. Could be a rock formation," Dongmin suggested. "Sometimes volcanic rock creates weird shapes." "Look at the composition readings," Jiwoo said, turning her screen toward him. "That's not rock. That's metal, or something like metal. The computer can't even identify it." Hyejin appeared with her camera, already recording. She was making a documentary about their archaeological expedition, following them as they searched for ancient trade routes through the Gobi Desert. "This is exactly the kind of discovery that will make my film interesting," she said with a smile. Taehyun barely heard her. His mind was racing through possibilities. They were in the middle of nowhere, weeks away from the nearest city. No one had reported anything unusual in this area. No military bases, no mining operations, nothing. Yet something enormous was buried beneath their feet. "We need to dig," he said finally. It took 3 days. They worked in shifts, using small excavation tools and brushes to carefully remove the sand. The heat was brutal during the day, the cold equally harsh at night. But slowly, gradually, something emerged from beneath the desert. On the 3rd day, Taehyun's brush touched something solid. He cleared away more sand, revealing a surface that gleamed despite being buried for who knew how long. The metal, if it was metal, was perfectly smooth. No rivets, no welds, no seams. It looked like it had been poured as one continuous piece. "Impossible," Dongmin whispered. "We can't make metal like this, not even with modern technology." But it was the symbols that made Taehyun's breath catch in his throat. Carved into the surface were markings unlike anything he had ever seen. They seemed to shimmer and shift when he looked directly at them, as if they were alive. Some looked almost familiar, like Korean characters, but not quite. Others were completely alien. Could this be some kind of art installation? Jiwoo asked. Maybe someone buried it here as a project. Out here? Taehyun shook his head. No one would go to this much trouble in the middle of the Gobi Desert. And look at the sand displacement. Whatever this is, it's been here a long time. A very long time. Hyejin was filming everything, moving around the exposed section of hull with her camera. This is incredible, she said. Do you know what this means? We could be looking at something that rewrites history. Taehyun knelt beside one cluster of symbols. They drew his eyes, seeming to pulse with a faint light. Without thinking, he reached out and traced them with his finger. Then, almost unconsciously, he tried to pronounce them. The sounds that came from his mouth were strange, clicking and flowing in ways Korean never did. The effect was immediate. The entire surface lit up. Lines of light raced across the metal, spreading in geometric patterns that hurt to look at. A deep humming sound rose from beneath the sand, vibrating through the ground and into their bones. Ji-woo stumbled backward. Dongmin dropped his tools. Hae-jin kept filming, though her hands were shaking. "What did you do?" Ji-woo shouted. "I don't know." Taehyun backed away from the hull, his heart hammering. "I just read the symbols." "Try it again," Dongmin said. He had recovered from his initial shock and was watching the patterns of light with fascination. "Say something else," but Ji-woo stepped forward instead. She looked at another cluster of symbols and tried to pronounce them. Nothing happened. The lights continued their pattern, but they didn't respond to her voice. "Let me try," Dongmin said. He spoke clearly, attempting the same sounds Taehyun had made. Still nothing. They all turned to look at Taehyun. "Why does it only respond to you?" Ji-woo asked. Before he could answer, the sand in front of them erupted outward. They threw up their arms to protect their faces as a section of the hull rose, revealing an opening. The humming grew louder. Then, floating in the air above the hull, a figure appeared. It was made of light, a holographic projection of a human form. The figure was translucent and blue, rotating slowly as if examining them. Symbols and text scrolled through the air around it. Languages Taehyun didn't recognize flashing past at incredible speed. Then the text changed. Korean appeared, floating in clear characters. "Scanning," the text read. A beam of light swept over Taehyun, moving from his head to his feet and back again. He wanted to run but found himself frozen in place. "Genetic authentication in progress." "Genetic?" Ji-woo whispered. "What does that mean?" The beam swept over Taehyun 3 more times. The holographic figure stopped rotating and faced him directly. More text appeared, larger this time, impossible to miss. "Genetic authentication confirmed. Descendant recognized. Awaiting commands." Taehyun felt dizzy. "Descendant? Descendant of what? Of whom?" "This doesn't make sense," he said aloud. "I'm an archaeologist. I study the past. I'm not descended from anything special." More text appeared. "Captain Park Seung-ho. Genetic line confirmed. Welcome home." Park was Taehyun's family name, though he used his given name professionally. But Seung-ho? He didn't know anyone in his family with that name. His grandfather had kept detailed family records going back centuries. There was no Seung-ho anywhere in those records. "What is this thing?" Hae-jin asked. She had finally lowered her camera and was staring at the hologram with a mixture of fear and wonder. Dongmin approached the opening in the hull carefully. "I think," he said slowly, "we just found a ship." "Not a boat. A spacecraft." "That's insane," Ji-woo said, but her voice lacked conviction. They were all looking at something that shouldn't exist, responding to voice commands in ways that defied explanation. Taehyun stepped closer to the hologram. "Who are you?" he asked. The hologram flickered. New text appeared. "Daedalus Protocol, Artificial Intelligence System for Ark Vessel. Humanity's Dawn. Crashed Earth landing, 12,000 years before current date. 12,000 years." The number hung in the air like an accusation. 12,000 years ago, humans were still hunting and gathering. They hadn't even invented agriculture yet. There were no cities, no writing, no civilization as they understood it. Yet according to this thing, a spacecraft called Humanity's Dawn had crashed on Earth 12,000 years ago. And somehow, impossibly, Taehyun was genetically connected to its captain. "This isn't possible," he said. The hologram's text changed one final time. "Truth does not require belief, it only requires existence. You are here, I am here, the ship is here. Therefore it is possible." Taehyun looked at his team. Ji-woo's face was pale. Dongmin was muttering calculations under his breath. Hae-jin stood frozen, her camera hanging forgotten at her side. Everything they knew about human history, about where they came from, about who they were, it was all wrong. And Taehyun had just activated the proof.